Making Mastery Learning a reality one day at a time. Hey, John Bergman here. Many of you have heard me talk about relationships and how to build relationships with students. And I've been thinking more deeply about that just in the recent days. I was listening to a speaker, and the speaker was talking about how we raise kids. His point was if you've got a 1-year-old or even a 6-month-old, and they might have a vocabulary of, let's say, 6 or 10 or 12 words, let's say a dozen words, and you're going to talk to them. Are you just going to use those 12 words, but instead you're going to talk to them as if they're a little bit older, right? You're going to use 50 words because your goal is to teach the kid to improve on their language skills so eventually they could become fluent completely as an adult. And so what he got me thinking about was, as you're working with students, you treat them as if they're older than they are. Because as you do that, they become older, and I'm thinking more cognitively, affectively, and in many ways. At some level, what it really is, I've been thinking of this, and something I do, but this guy put language in around it for me. I believe it was Tim Keller was the guy's name, speech that he gave, and it was powerful. And I was thinking about how do I build relationships with my students, and I've got 3 tips here that I think have some I've been doing just recently and some for a long time. So tip number 1 is I got this idea from my daughter, Katie Bergman, who's a science teacher or English teacher. My other girl, Emily, is a science teacher in Wisconsin, and she introduced me this idea of what we call the question of the day. And so I've got a series of questions that she shared with me. I've subsequently found some more, where at the beginning of every class, it's an attendance question, so also I take attendance, I ask a question. So like a couple of days ago, the question was, would you rather have a pause button or a rewind button on your life? And actually that was a tough question for the kids to respond to, and most of them, by the way, said rewind. And that revealed something to me about my students, is that they want to go back and fix past mistakes. And that opened up some opportunities to get to know students better. And it's silly, it's a way for every kid to get a voice at the beginning of class, to hear every kid talk in front of their peers, and they look forward to the question of the day. In fact, yesterday we didn't have a question of the day because I had an experiment and the class had been cut short because of a school thing, and it was like, we got to get to the lab, we won't finish. So, but Mr. Bergman, what was the question of the day? So they look forward to those questions of the days, even if they don't get a chance to answer them. In fact, that may be maybe the only day I haven't done that this whole school year. So tip number 1, ask a question of the day. Tip number 2 is something that I've discovered just in the last 2 weeks. So I should have known this. So I've had commons duties. So you all have duties at different times. So the last 2 weeks I have been down in the commons. We have a commons section in our school. Before school there's a lunchroom there. They can buy some food before school or sit in lounge chairs, or lounge chairs, but there's some seating. It's kind of the cafeteria really. And because I'm just supposed to be there because it's kind of my job, is to go there a few weeks every year. In the last 2 weeks, I had it 2 weeks in a row. And what I've discovered, crazy enough, is that all the students that I need to help the most with in Mastery Learning often are down there. And so I've been using this opportunity to interact with those students. My goal is really technically to supervise kids, make sure they don't hurt each other, it's all safe, whatever, right? But I'm using that, I'm walking around, I'm joking with the kids, I'm making comments, I'm helping them on assignments. They go, hey, Mr. Bergman, come over here. I've started bringing my clipboard down. I can check off their work when I'm down there. But I've seen it a great opportunity, and I had this idea kind of like in a dream last night, really, if that's true. Do you dream about your work like I do? I don't know. I do. And my kids, I thought, you know what? I'm like a super early bird. I come to school. I'm one of the first guys at school. I can get my stuff done in my classroom, be all set up. I can go hang out there like for 20 minutes every morning. And I'm going to probably see more bang for that time than any other time, because I'll be down there for students to come and get help from me. Where they're not like, come to my class to get help. Come to my class to get the tutoring you need. And many of them won't, but I can go to them. So I'm not sure I'll do it every day of the week, but I think I'm going to make this kind of a regular part of my plan. And then the third one, something that I had an idea. I had the privilege, my school sent me to the Future of Education Technology Conference, and the keynote speaker there, whose name I have forgotten, sorry, Mr. Keynote Speaker, he was just talking about, how what was his topic? Like positive, not positive relationships, but how to have like a positive attitude, I think is the topic. And he's a Harvard guy or something like that. But one thing that he challenged people to do is to write a positive email every day. And as you write those positive emails, you will become more positive. I mean, truth be told, I can sometimes be a half glass full guy sometimes, and I need to be more of a, I need to be more optimistic than pessimistic, and sometimes I can be that way. I don't know if you're like that, but I am a little bit. But he's challenged us, and he says that might make you more optimistic. I thought, sure. I mean, it takes me just a few minutes to write out one quick email. So I sent an email. Here, I got it up on the screen. Here the email says, I said something like that. I just wanted to brag about your son. And I send these to the parents, by the way, and I copy the kid. And if they're like in our special ed program, I'll also copy the special ed teacher. He truly gets chemistry. He's doing so well. At the end of last week, he was leading his lab group through some difficult calculations. I was just explaining how awesome I was. I'm looking for positive things for kids to do, and then I'm going to highlight it and brag on the parents. I said you have raised an amazing young man. Boom. And the email back from dad or mom, looks like it's the dad. He says, we so appreciate you informing this. Or this morning I sent one out for one of my students who's really struggled a lot. He struggled a lot. And first of all, he's one of our SPED students, and he's just shown in the last few weeks. I've just like, this has been awesome. In fact, where have I seen him? He's been coming to me during that Commons time, and he came to me, and I noticed it. I've noticed that he's just improving and he's learning so well. And I bragged onto his parents. His parents were like, "Oh my gosh, all we ever hear are bad things about my son." And it made our day. And then he individually emailed me and said, "Wow, thank you, Mr. Bergman. Thank you for that email. That really made a difference for me." So. Yeah, I mean, tip number one, right? Question of the day. Feel free to, send me a message in my email or in the website if you want a list of those questions. Somehow find a place where they are. That's that Commons thing I'm doing, and then the positive emails that make a difference. So, quick 3 tips to build relationships, because we know that good teaching isn't good until kids, how do I say that? I'm going to say that right. Kids don't care what you know until they know what you care. I think that's how the statement goes. And I care, but I need to find ways to be with them so they can see that and so they can learn. I mean, my goal is, my job is to teach them science, right? But I also know my job is to speak into their life and to grow them up to be amazing young people. And I think that idea, again, if you speak to them as if they are older or more mature or more, right? They're more. That's really believing in them. They will respond in kind. You can make mastery learning a reality one day at a time. John Bergman out.